Hey there, happy December. Welcome into the College Basketball Bracket Science Podcast. Happy December, happy college hoops. We had a loaded week that just went on during Feast Week. I was at the Players Era Festival. I'm going to talk about some of those games. We're going to talk about the entire MTE schedule that went on, including Maui, Battle for Atlantis. We had top 5 teams falling regularly, especially the defending back-to-back champion UConn Huskies losing three games in Maui. Very unexpected there. We're going to talk about some of the teams that are climbing their way up in seeds in terms of looking forward to be in position for a great seed in March Madness, and some teams that are falling, unfortunately, towards the bubble. I know we're only 7-8 games in, but some teams really getting out of position right now. So today our layout's going to look like we're going to talk about all the results from the MTEs that you need to know. We'll list the teams in order of how they finished. I haven't been seeing that, quite frankly, anywhere, so we're going to talk about all of those. And then today is ranking day. It's Monday, December 2nd. The net rankings, the first ones of the year, were released along with the AP poll, and we also released our power rankings. So we're going to dive into all of that. We're going to talk about some of the teams that flourished, some of the teams that fell, and then, of course, the games to watch for this upcoming week. December 4th on Wednesday is an absolutely incredible loaded slate. Before we dive into it, give us a shout out on social media. Go follow us at Bracket Science with 2 S's, specifically Instagram. Go check us out, and TikTok, Bracket Science 2 S's, and then check out our website, bracketscience.org, for content and even our clothing line. Without further ado, we're going to go ad-free today, and we are going to get straight into the results. Now, for those watching on YouTube, I'm going to pull up graphics for we're going to talk about Maui, the Players Era, and the Battle for Atlantis more than the others, and then we'll talk about some of the other ones briefly, but we're going to dive into these big three. So I got the bracket pulled up for the entire Maui Invitational where we're going to start. So let's go back to day one, November 25th. This was the first of the UConn losses. Memphis took down number 2 UConn in overtime, 99-97. This was the Dan Hurley explosion game where he went off on a ref for an over-the-back call that was 50-50 call, but ended up costing him the game. Tyrese Hunter went off, 26 points, 7 threes. We're not going to dive too deep into these games, the first-round games. We'll talk about the championship a little bit more here, but it's just worth noting UConn falls to Memphis. Also on that first day, we had that top 5 matchup. Number 4 Auburn taking on number 5 Iowa State. Iowa State led by 16 at the half, but Auburn came fighting back, won the game 83-81. Thanks to a Jonai Broom last-second tip-in. He also had 21 points, 11 rebounds. Auburn has been spectacular. We'll talk about them here in a little bit. Dayton took on number 12 North Carolina in the first round, and North Carolina barely held on 92-90 as Dayton led by 18 at the half, but R.J. Davis and Seth Trimble ended up combining for 57 points. Seth Trimble also added 10 boards, so it was it's that guard-heavy offense that continued to thrive and got him back into a good position to win that game over Dayton. Close affair there. Colorado took on Michigan State. Michigan State won the game 72-56. Not much to talk about there. Now, day 2, November 26th, the semifinals in the winners bracket. Memphis took down Michigan State thanks to Tyrese Hunter again. 23 points, 5 threes. Tyrese Hunter shot 32% from downtown last year. He is well above that this year. Also in the winners bracket, number 4 Auburn easily took down number 12 North Carolina. 85-72, Jonai Broom, 23 points, 19 rebounds. He has been spectacular. Then in the consolation bracket, this was the surprising one. UConn fell again to Colorado. Colorado does not look anywhere near a tournament team this year after all they lost last year. They get beat 73-72 in yet another close affair there. Iowa State held off Dayton 89-84. And then day 3 was the championship day, where number 4 Auburn took down Memphis easily, 90-76. Auburn has the best resume right now. I think they're playing the best out of anyone in the country. They look spectacular. They have the best player in college basketball so far this year in Jonai Broom. He had 21 points, 16 rebounds in this one. In the third place game, Michigan State took down North Carolina, 94-91 in overtime. 6 guys were in double figures for Michigan State, getting off to a 6-2 start to the year. And in the fifth place game, number 5 Iowa State dominated Colorado 99-71. Would have loved to see Iowa State not have to match up with Auburn in that first game. But unfortunately, they ended up, the best they could do was 5th place. A lot of people saying they should just be given the runner-up. I get it, but Iowa State, good win there. And in 7th place game, UConn falls to Dayton 85-67, just domination from start to finish from the Flyers there. So yes, UConn came into the tournament as plus 115 favorites. That is crazy for an MTE with 8 teams. They were that heavy of a favorite. Next was Auburn at like plus 400, plus 115, and they finished dead last. The UConn Huskies finished dead last in the Maui Invitational. So in order, this is what the results ended up being. First place, the Auburn Tigers. Second place, the Memphis Tigers. Third place, Michigan State. Fourth place, North Carolina. Fifth place, Iowa State. Sixth place, Colorado. Seventh place, Dayton. Eighth place, UConn. Wow. Did not expect any of that. Let's move on to the Players Era Festival, where I was here for the first day watching these games. Day 1, November 26th. This was Tuesday. The opening game was number 21 Creighton taking on San Diego State, where San Diego State just dominated them 71-53. Now, I'll go a little bit more in depth in these games just as I was there. Some things that I saw, some teams that you might want to potentially be betting on, some teams that you might not want to be betting on. The team that I would not be betting on is definitely Creighton in this scenario here. Now, the game started off with Jackson McAndrew. Very impressive to start. 2 threes within the first 4 minutes. Got them off to a nice start. He ended the game 12 points, 14 rebounds, shot only threes. 4 of 11 from the field. 4 of 11 from 3 was Jackson McAndrew. He was impressive. I came impressed with him. He was kind of just slinging, but they were going in. They didn't have a point guard. Stephen Ashworth was out for this game, and it really showed. They do not have anyone they can go to be a point guard when Ashworth is out. Kalkbrenner was held scoreless for the first 19 minutes, and when that's going to happen, especially without Stephen Ashworth, you are not going to win this game. Kalkbrenner did not look great. The first 19 minutes missed some bunnies, but that San Diego State defense was the story here. Guath for San Diego State could eventually end up being a stud for this team. He's a guy to watch out for. He is so skinny. Once he puts some muscle on, watch out for Guath. San Diego State caught fire in the second half, all led by Miles Bird. In my opinion, Miles Bird was the best player on this floor in this game because Kalkbrenner was shut down. Without Kalkbrenner, it was just all Miles Bird. He had 16 points, 6 of 10 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 0 turnovers. BJ Davis also added 18 points and 9 rebounds. Got to mention him for San Diego State, but this was just in dominating fashion. San Diego State was the better team in this game. Creighton was without Stephen Ashworth, so keep that in mind. But San Diego State had a tremendous week here in the Players Era Festival. So we'll talk about them here in a little bit more. The next game was Oregon taking on number 20 Texas A&M. Oregon won the game 82-70. Quite frankly, the note I took on this game was I was not really impressed by either team. That is going to come back to haunt me because Oregon ended up winning this tournament. Sneak peek there. For those who didn't hear, Oregon won this tournament, but watching this game, I wasn't really impressed by either team. Maybe that was just Oregon's style. They scored 80 points, but the story for me was Texas A&M. It was ugly, very ugly. Manny Obaseki, however you pronounce it, coming off the bench, he has been rather dull. He was the guy who averaged 15 points in their March Madness run last year and in the SEC tournament. A&M just looked completely out of control. It is so incredibly hard to watch Wade Taylor play basketball, quite frankly. He just comes down, chucks up threes, takes bad shots. He was 4 of 16 from the field in this game, 2 of 10 from 3. He kind of just led into all the skepticisms I have of Wade Taylor and this team. The combination of Wade Taylor, Zurich Phelps, and Manny Obaseki should be dynamic, quite frankly. That should be one of the best guard rooms in the country, but it's not. Just one-on-one, out-of-control basketball. Wade Taylor has a ton of talent, don't get me wrong, but it was just ugly. I was impressed by Zurich Phelps and even Farrell Payne from Texas A&M. Now, Solomon Washington did get hurt in the first quarter, so he didn't play much, but didn't really do anything until he got hurt. But this game, there were just so many fouls. It was just out-of-control basketball. Texas A&M would just come down, head down, just throw the ball up in the air. It was just ugly, ugly basketball to watch. Came very unimpressed with Texas A&M. Maybe it was Oregon. Maybe it was Oregon that put them in this position to just look this ugly. But Oregon picks up a huge win in this one, 80-70. TJ Bamba was the story for Oregon in this one. He was very impressive the entire Players Era Festival. We're going to dive deeper into Oregon here in a second, I promise. Now, the game of the night was number 9 Alabama taking on number 6 Houston. Alabama won the game 85-80 in overtime. This was just, you could tell it was the two best teams in the tournament. I don't care that Oregon beat Alabama, which I do care, but Alabama and Houston, I think, were the two obvious best teams in this tournament. The rankings said it going into this tournament, but it was just the best game in general. Houston's defense is as advertised. JoJo Tugler, my lord, seeing him in person, his arms are so long, 7'6" wingspan. Alabama's rotation is the only concern I have for this team right now, and we'll dive deeper into them when we talk about the championship game. But they got 10 guys. They're rotating 10 guys right now. They're going to have to figure that out. You got to cut back. That's just not feasible. The story overall, not including just the teams, was the refs. The refs completely ruined this game. 74 total free throws. It was the first time I've been at a game where I really thought that both teams' crowds were going to get into it and start booing the refs at the same time. It was just pathetic. People were fed up. It ended up being over a 3-hour basketball game. What should have been fantastic, powerful offense in Alabama, powerful defense in Houston, was just ruined by the refs. And this has kind of been a story for college basketball the last couple months. As mentioned, 74 total free throws. LJ Cryer had a ton of them. He did have 30 points. He was only 9 of 26 from the field. Most of his work came from the free throw line. Mark Sears was good. He got back on track, 24 points, 4 rebounds. And how about Diabate from Alabama? This was a great showing for Diabate. 10 points, 16 rebounds. We'll talk about Alabama when we talk about the championship game in this one. The late night game was Rutgers taking on Notre Dame, which also went into overtime. There were so many overtime games in general in Feast Week. This was a good one. Rutgers ended up winning the game 85-84. Matt Alaco, though, for Notre Dame, was just hucking up contested threes and making everything at the end of regulation. He had 24 points, 10 rebounds, 6 threes. I mean, it was just fantastic. But Dylan Harper, my goodness, 36 points in this one. He has been the best freshman so far this year, including Cooper Flagg. Dylan Harper having a spectacular, playing like an All-American as of right now. All right, moving on to day 2. We won't talk about this day as much. Oregon took down San Diego State 78-68, yet another 10-point victory. Texas A&M beat Creighton in a ranked-on-ranked matchup, believe it or not. Number 20, Texas A&M 77, number 21, Creighton 73. And then Rutgers held a game with Alabama. Alabama ended up winning 95-90. Dylan Harper, 37 points in this one. Yes, 36 and 37 points. 73 points in 2 games. Spectacular for Dylan Harper. Mark Sears had 24 again. 5 guys in double figures for Alabama. Then in the late night game, it actually started at about 1:30 in the morning. For those who stayed up, good for you. Didn't end up being that appealing of a game, quite frankly. Number 6, Houston took down Notre Dame 65-54. And then going into the championship day, the 7th place game was Notre Dame taking on number 21 Creighton. Kalkbrenner did not play in this one. Frederick King started in front of him. Final score was Creighton 80-76 for Notre Dame. It was not that close. It was more of a 10-point game for most of the game, and then Notre Dame kind of fought back towards the end. But Creighton goes away with a win at least. Then in the 5th place game was a good one. Rutgers 77, Texas A&M 81. Wade Taylor looked better in this one. 24 points. Ace Bailey, the other star freshman for Rutgers, scored 24, and Dylan Harper added 18, which seems low, which is crazy. 18 points is still a great game. But Texas A&M took care of Rutgers in that one. Then in the 3rd place game, number 6 Houston and San Diego State. This game went into overtime where San Diego State got the job done, 73-70. Cryer and Sharp, the 2 dynamic guards for Houston, combined for 44 points, but just got no help from the front court. They're supposed to have one of the best front courts in the country. It hasn't been so far this year. I know Javier Francis has been hurt, but they got to do a little bit more in there, or they're crawling down those poles quickly right now. Now, the championship game was as entertaining as they come. Number 9, Alabama 81, Oregon 83. Oregon is the first ever Players Era Festival champion. They get an extra $1 million for this. How about that? Thanks to a Nate Biddle last-second dunk. Nate Biddle had a great game in this one, 19 points. Mark Sears, 1 of 11 from 3 in this one. He hasn't been great to start the year. He is fantastic, don't get me wrong. Got to step it up a little bit, though. And then Bartholomew from Oregon had a great game coming off the bench. 22 points, 4 threes. He looked like Jermaine Cusnard out there. It was like very similar to that. Remember Jermaine Cusnard's great performance last year in March Madness? It looked like the same looking shot, same looking everything. It looked good. Keyshawn Bartholomew, 22 points, 4 threes. So in order, first place, Oregon. Oregon climbs so far up into the AP poll. We'll talk about them when we talk about that release. Alabama came in second. San Diego State came in third. Great week for the Aztecs. Houston in fourth. I would have definitely taken Houston to win this tournament. They ended in fourth. Texas A&M fifth. Rutgers sixth. Creighton seventh. Notre Dame eighth. Yikes. Moving on to the Battle for Atlantis. Now, this one we will not talk about as much, but still, plenty of good games and a lot of action here. Day one, November 27th. This started with a bang as West Virginia took down number 3 Gonzaga, 86-78 in overtime. Did not see this one coming at all. Javon Small was going ballistic. 31 points in this one, just caught absolute fire. Now, the other, honestly, maybe more surprising result, Louisville took down number 14 Indiana 89-61. I watched this whole game. I think this was the worst coaching game I've ever seen in my life. And it was out of Mike Woodson, who was already on the hot seat. I mean, this was as ugly as it comes. It was like a 34-point lead for Louisville with like 10 minutes left in the game. They could have probably won by 50. Now, bad news for Louisville. Kayshawn Pryor is out for the season with a torn ACL. It just happened. It didn't happen in this game. He played all through this tournament. Maybe their best player, one of their top 3 guys, tore his ACL. That sucks. That sucks for Pat Kelsey's squad and Louisville fans. Hopefully they can get it figured out. They just absolutely blitzed Indiana in this game. Fun fact in this one, Indiana had 92% of the bets on them. Both money line and their spread, they came in as a 3-point favorite. They were down 34 with about 7 minutes left. Pathetic coaching performance by Mike Woodson. Moving on, down the line, Oklahoma took down Providence in a close one, 79-77. This will prove vital as we talk about the championship bracket. And then Davidson took on number 24 Arizona, where Arizona killed them, 104-71. As expected. Now day 2 in the championship bracket. Louisville took down West Virginia in overtime. West Virginia with the second straight overtime game, 79-70. Chucky Hepburn went off for Louisville, 32 points in this one. And then the surprising one was Oklahoma taking down number 24 Arizona, 82-77. Jalen Moore and Jeremiah Fears combined for 50 for Oklahoma in this game. Porter Mosier done a spectacular job so far. What is it about Oklahoma and Wisconsin that to start every year, they are just blazing hot. They come out ready as ever. Greg Gard and Porter Mosier do great to start the year every single season. Now, after Indiana got blitzed by Louisville, they decided to get blitzed again by Gonzaga. Now, this was a tough spot for Indiana, I will admit, going against a Gonzaga team, which is the best offense in the country and had just lost a game. But it was a blowout, 89-73. Gonzaga got it done. Gonzaga had 6 guys in double figures. The game was not close. Mike Woodson, talented roster, always doing less with more. Providence lost to Davidson. This is a tough loss for Kim English's squad, 69-58. Providence will not be, I can say it confidently right now, unless something crazy happens, Providence will not be in March Madness this year. They have no way to score the ball right now. And on the final day, the championship day, November 29th, the championship game was a good one. Louisville and Oklahoma in the championship game. Who would have thought? Love to see that. Louisville back on the map. But Oklahoma got the job done, 69-64. Jalen Moore continued to stay hot, 24 points in this one. And then the third place game, West Virginia took down number 24 Arizona, 83-76 in overtime. 3 games played for West Virginia, 3 games in overtime. They beat number 24 Arizona. Arizona is 3-4 to start the year. Rough start for Tommy Lloyd's squad. Caleb Love, man, they got to move on. They got to move on from him. I get it. He was the last Pac-12 player of the year, but man, it's just ugly right now. He had a pretty good game in this one, but I mean, it's just when it's so much me ball, can only take so much. Then in the 5th place game, number 3 Gonzaga took down Davidson easily, 92-65. I think that Gonzaga loss to West Virginia was quite frankly a fluke. West Virginia looked good. Give credit to West Virginia. I mean, Javon Small was unconscious in that game, but Gonzaga I still think is just absolutely fantastic. I kept them up at the top of my AP poll. They're not first, but they're up there. We'll talk about them here in a second. And then in the 7th place game, Indiana did end up getting a win. They did not come in last. They took down Providence 89-73. So in order, Oklahoma is your Battle for Atlantis champion. Louisville, the runner-up. West Virginia, 3rd. Arizona, 4th. Gonzaga, 5th. Davidson, 6th. Indiana, 7th. And Providence, 8th. Providence cannot score the ball. It is ugly right now. Now, going around the globe, we're talking about some of just the other teams that really impressed, some of the other, 4-team, 6-team MTEs that we're going to talk about here. Starting with Michigan. Michigan won the Fort Myers tip-off by beating Virginia Tech 75-63, and then they dominated number 22 Xavier 78-53. It was a dominating performance. Michigan had a great week. They're starting to figure things out. Watch out for Dusty May's squad. Clemson won the Sunshine Slam by beating San Francisco 70-55, and then Penn State 75-67. Great week there for Brad Brownell's squad. I think the most surprising one to me, Boston College won the Cayman Islands Classic by beating Missouri State 76-74 in overtime. That seems like a reasonable result. Boston College, Missouri State. Boston College is one of the worst Power 5 basketball schools this year, quite frankly. I think it's safe to say. But then they beat Boise State. I did not see this one coming at all. Boise State loses 63-61. Boise State ranked by a lot of people for a while, including myself, but this is a tough loss. This is one Boise State cannot lose, but they did. And then Purdue won the Rady Children's Invitational. They took down Final Four competitor last year, NC State, 71-61, and then number 23 Ole Miss, 80-78, thanks to a Miles Colvin last-second put-back shot with about 0.5 seconds left. Braden Smith left the shot short. Miles Colvin got it. Reverse layup. Game over. Sorry for those Purdue -2.5 bettors. Yikes. But Purdue wins the Rady Children's Invitational. I actually think I left more impressed with Ole Miss in that game than I did with Purdue, just because we expect a little bit more of Purdue. And I was just kind of impressed with what I saw from Ole Miss. I mean, Purdue got off to a crazy hot start. Ole Miss fought all the way back and had a good chance to win the game. So impressed with both teams. And then Arizona State. What is going on with Arizona State? They are blazing hot right now. They won the Acrisure Classic by beating New Mexico, a good New Mexico team, 85-82, and then beat St. Mary's, who I am incredibly high on, 68-64. Arizona State entered my rankings this week. Bobby Hurley's done a tremendous job. Their defense is real. They can score the ball. Arizona State looking like a team that might finish in the top half of the Big 12. We'll see if they continue to improve. Then a team that had one of the best weeks of anyone, Florida, won the ESPN Events Invitational. They drilled Wake Forest 75-58. Wake Forest looks really bad right now, quite frankly. And then they beat Wichita State, a Wichita State team that came in undefeated, 88-51. Florida went on a 27-0 run in this game. Incredible. Todd Golden has quite literally a case out there, and this team is not missing a beat. They're spectacular. Good for Florida. They win the ESPN Events Invitational. Then Butler won the Arizona tip-off by beating Northwestern 71-69, and then beat number 25 Mississippi State as 9-point underdogs, 87-77. How about Thad Matta's Bulldogs there? Utah State won the NIT tip-off. They beat St. Bonaventure 72-67, and then North Texas 61-57. Utah State up there in the net rankings. We'll talk about them here in a second. Washington won the Acrisure Invitational, not the Classic, the Invitational, by beating Colorado State 73-67, and then Santa Clara 76-69. And then, as mentioned, Wisconsin stays blazing hot. They won the Greenbrier, by beating Pitt in the championship game, 81-75. That's a great matchup, Wisconsin versus Pitt. John Tanji, 33 points. He has been fantastic. Now, 3 more games to talk about, and then we'll move on to the rankings, I promise. Other just random, huge games we have to mention. It's been about, 20 minutes, and we haven't talked about the number 1 team in the country, or Duke, who has Cooper Flag. Number 1 Kansas took on number 11 Duke in Vegas. Kansas won the game 75-72. Now, what I will say about this is it was a huge swing and a miss for college basketball, scheduling Kansas, Duke at the same time as Alabama in Houston. What are we doing there? Have them, even if it's a 5 o'clock tip-off and then a 7 o'clock tip-off, or 7 and 9. This was a miss. Both games were going on at the same time. Both games were close as expected. Huge swing and a miss there. So I'm at the Alabama-Houston game watching this on my phone. Felt horrible. But Hunter Dickinson was a story. He got ejected in this one for that kick in the head to Malik Brown. If you haven't seen the video, go check it out. Go search it online. What I took away from this, we've talked a lot about Kansas's lineup. A.J. Storr started in place of Rylan Griffin in this one. They brought Rylan Griffin off the bench. Kansas is so good that they haven't figured out their lineup. They're switching it up just about every game, and they're still beating the team that is, has number 1 defense. And Ken Pom is... Kansas came into this game as 4.5-point underdogs. Why a number 1 team in the country would ever be 4.5-point underdogs? That's what it was at Ken Palm, too. It was Duke -4, so that's kind of what they went off of. But it's also Bill Self versus John Shire, and I'm taking Bill Self every day in that one. Shire ended up leaning towards Cooper Flagg again in the last seconds, and it didn't work out. Flagg turnover. Tyrese Proctor had a great game. He was 5 of 7 from 3 in the game. I thought for sure Shire had learned his lesson and was going to go to Tyrese Proctor in this one. They needed a 3. They didn't. It didn't work out. They ended up getting a shot from Con Knipple that it rimmed out, but it rimmed out off the bank. It wasn't a good-looking shot. I thought for sure they were going to end up getting it to Proctor. Didn't end up doing it. I would have trusted Proctor in it, but still, good performance by Duke. They just haven't got that big win yet. I guess they won at Arizona, but Arizona's 3-4. We don't know if Arizona's even a tournament team right now. But Kansas takes down Duke. Kansas remains number 1 in the AP poll. Now, number 19, Arkansas took on Illinois on Thanksgiving. Illinois won the game 90-77. A battle of the Ivisiches. Tomislav Ivisic from Illinois and Zvonimir Ivisic from Arkansas, brothers, played against each other, and Tomislav won this battle. He scored 21 points and added 19 rebounds, knocking down 6 threes. He went off against his brother. Jessionis also added 23 points for Illinois. Now, one of the most entertaining games of the entire week was Pitt at Ohio State. This game ended up in overtime, where Pitt won the game 91-90 thanks to a last-second buzzer beater by Zach Austin. Ohio State led by double figures mostly the entire game, and then Pitt went on a 15-0 run. Jalen Lowe went off, had 28 points in this one. This was an entertaining game. It was a legit buzzer beater. Great shot by Zach Austin. Great win by Pitt going on the road. Tough week for Buckeye fans, man. Lose on a buzzer beater to Pitt and then lose at home to Michigan. Tough weekend to be a Buckeye fans. All right, that is it for the results. That's all the MTEs. Now we're going to dive a little bit deeper into these teams. Yes, it's going to be a little bit more of a longer podcast, but we're going to talk about our rankings, the net rankings in the AP poll. First, let's dive into our power rankings. Power rankings. All right, starting our power rankings off with my number 1 team is definitely the Auburn Tigers. No brainer to me. They're 7-0 to start the year. At 2, I do have Kansas. Kansas right there. I kept Gonzaga. I had Gonzaga at number 1. I dropped them just to number 3. I still think they're spectacular. Iowa State at 4. Tennessee up to 5. And Kentucky up to 6. Marquette enters the top 10 at 7. Duke stays at 8. Now, these are the 3 teams I want to talk about. Florida, I have all the way up to 9. I don't know if a team's, quite frankly, outside of Auburn and maybe Kansas, looked better than Florida. Wisconsin in the same boat as Florida. I have them into the top 10. I moved Oregon up to 11. Purdue at 12. Alabama at 13. Memphis, all the way up to 14. I have Pitt at 15. I think Pitt is spectacular. Cincinnati at 16. I move Michigan all the way up to 17. Now, a lot of questions on why I have Michigan above Michigan State. They're better in every computer ranking, and quite frankly, I don't think Michigan State's that great this year. Got a good win over North Carolina. I don't think North Carolina's that great this year, but if you were to give me neutral site matchup, Michigan State, I would be taking Michigan as of right now. Oklahoma at 18 enters the rankings. Baylor at 19. Ole Miss at 20. Texas Tech. I know that says Texas A&M. I screwed up. It's Texas Tech at 21. Michigan State at 22. San Diego State up to 23, and I dropped Houston all the way to 24. My question is, we know Houston's good. Do they have the guy to win them games? They don't seem to have that guy. The one thing I will take away from that Houston game against San Diego State was not Jamal Shed, excuse me. They need Jamal Shed. L.J. Cryer dumped off a pass to JoJo Tugler. JoJo Tugler hesitated a little bit, ended up traveling, and L.J. Cryer just kind of, not much of a leadership thing, just kind of, complaining, rolling his eyes, mad at JoJo Tugler. I'm like, that's not something I've ever seen from Houston. Jamal Shed definitely not, would definitely never do that. Go up to him and, hey, get him next time. That was my takeaway. That was the one thing I noticed from that game, and I'm like, that's not what you see out of Houston. Have some concerns about Houston's offense right now. Got them at 24. Their defense is elite. I'm sure that at some point they will end up back in my top 10 because I am a huge, huge believer in Kelvin Sampson. At 25, I got North Carolina all the way down there. That's my question. Are we sure North Carolina's that good? I'm not sure. I got them down at 25. Illinois at 26. I know that seems low for some people. I still have questions about this team. I need to see them play someone other than Arkansas because I don't think Arkansas is that great. I need to see them play someone like just a middle-of-the-pack team. I think they get a good one this week We'll talk about them here in a little bit. Can't quite remember, but they will play a good game this week at some point. And then 27, I kept Ohio State. I was impressed with Ohio State during their game. Ended up losing it, but they controlled that whole game against the team. I got number 15. So I do still have Texas at 28. Then I moved Arizona State up to 29. St. Mary's at 30. Strongly considered. Xavier drops out of the rankings. So does St. John's. Utah State all the way up there. They're looking good to start the year. Clemson, Mississippi State, Texas A&M drops out because of those just crazy concerns that I have. Dayton, Louisville, Drake, BYU, Arkansas, Nebraska. Nebraska off to a good start this year. Got questions of why Nebraska isn't ranked in anything, the AP poll, the net rankings, my rankings. I need to see them beat someone other than Creighton because I quite frankly do not think Creighton is very good this year. I've been saying that since the beginning of the year. Especially if Kalkbrenner is... I don't know why he missed that Players Era Festival final game, but if he's any bit hurt, they're screwed. They're not going to make the tournament if Kalkbrenner's hurt. Georgia, Creighton, Indiana, UCLA. UCLA kind of flying under the radar right now. We need to see them play some serious competition. Now moving into the first ever net rankings that were released today. Not first ever, first of the year net rankings. Some surprising ones that we will talk about. Number 1 is Tennessee. Now to me, Tennessee, I know Duke is ranking number 1 at KenPom in terms of defensive efficiency. I think Tennessee's still got the best defense in the country. To me, there's two defenses that look different when you just watch them to the eye test, and it's Tennessee and Houston. Duke, I would say, is third, but it's Tennessee and Houston right now, and I don't hate Tennessee being at number 1 at the net rankings. I thought it was going to go Auburn, then Tennessee in the net, if I had to guess. But Tennessee at 1, Auburn at 2, no surprise. Gonzaga at 3, Duke at 4. Now Pitt all the way up at 5. That win against Ohio State will go a long way at Ohio State. And then Florida up at 6, Marquette at 7, Kentucky at 8, Kansas at 9, Illinois way up at 10. Maybe the Illinois... the computers like in Illinois a little more than I do. I got to see a little bit more from them. I know they've been good to start the year. I need to see them beat. I don't know. I don't know what it is about Illinois. I just have a few skepticisms. 11, Cincinnati. 12, Ohio State up that high. Alabama at 13. Utah State way up at 14. 15, Oregon. 16, UCLA. 17, Wisconsin. 18, Clemson. 19, Iowa State. I expected Iowa State to be top 5, top 10. Way down at 19. Houston at 20. Purdue at 21. Baylor 22. Maryland up at 23. UC Irvine. The Fighting Irvines. 24. St. Mary's at 25. UC Irvine. How about that? Cool stuff there. Moving on to the AP poll that was just released. We're not really going to talk about any of them until we get to the number 25 spot for those who see that on YouTube, on the graphic. Insane to me. So we'll just start there. UConn is 25th. In what world should UConn be 25th? You finished dead last in Maui. I thought for sure they weren't even going to get any votes. They're still ranked. I love Dan Hurley more than most. I think he's spectacular. He's had some questionable antics this year. UConn does not deserve to be ranked. They should not be ranked right now. But Kansas stays number 1, Auburn's 2, and Tennessee's up to 3. Nothing else other really surprising in there. San Diego State entered the rankings at 24. Oregon's up to 12. Oklahoma's in there at 21. Pitt's at 18. Illinois at 19. There's nothing really too surprising in terms of the AP poll other than UConn still being ranked. That's just a swing and a miss. That's just the AP poll for you. All right, now let's get into some team trends, some teams that are trending upward, some teams that are trending downward. Let's start positive. Teams that are trending up: Florida, Butler, Washington, Clemson, Michigan State, Pitt, Michigan, West Virginia, Oregon, Louisville. All these teams climbing up towards, like Florida, they're going to be in the tournament. Pitt, Michigan State, Michigan, probably going to be in the tournament. Oregon. But West Virginia, they weren't supposed to be a bubble team this year. They're up there. They're getting votes for some rankings. Same goes for Louisville, Butler, Washington. Danny Sprinkle, we should have known he's going to do a great job. Now teams trending down. Indiana is down at 71st in the net. Man, Mike Woodson, how can you just continue to just underperform? Hopefully he gets it back on track, because basketball's better when Indiana's good. But oh my goodness, I sense Indiana fans' frustration. I'm with you. I hate to see a team this talented just underperform. Hopefully they get it figured out during Big Ten play. Wake Forest looks like a bubble-ish team as of right now. No, they did beat Michigan, which is going to age beautifully, but they're trending downward. Arkansas definitely trending downward. Ohio State trending downward a little bit after that loss. UConn, Arizona definitely skyrocketing downward. Boise State going way down. Providence is not going to be in the NCAA tournament this year. If they end up in the NCAA tournament, I'll take a hit on it. I don't think that even has a chance this year. A&M trending downward. Creighton trending downward. And Notre Dame, after coming in last, definitely trending downward. Now, let's talk about the games to watch for this upcoming week.
Games to watch.
So Tuesday and Wednesday are the biggest days. Wednesday is by far the biggest day. We have a huge slate. So let's talk about the games on Tuesday. Now, these lines are via KenPom. Starting at 6:30, we have number 14, Cincinnati, traveling to Villanova on FS1. Cincinnati favored by 4 in that game. We'll see if Kyle Neptune can somehow save his season and, quite frankly, save his job. At 7 o'clock, Notre Dame travels to Georgia. Georgia favored by 6. This game's on ESPN2. Notre Dame in desperate need of a win. Georgia has been sneaky good to start this year. At 7 o'clock, Northwestern travels to Iowa. So yes, the reason this one is on there, this is the start of Big Ten conference play. They're starting it off early on December 3rd. Big Ten starting conference play. Love to see it. This game's on Peacock. Iowa favored by 5. At 7 o'clock, Arkansas, who has disappointed this year. They're favored by 3 over a team that has disappointed the past 2 seasons. The Miami Hurricanes. Miami is horrible to start this upcoming season. This game's on ESPN2. This is a game to check out because both teams have talent but do not look good whatsoever as of right now. At 7:30 on ESPN. So we're starting up Big Tuesday yet again. Syracuse travels to number 3 Tennessee. If I were to have you guess what this line is, Syracuse at Tennessee, what would you have ever said that Tennessee is favored by 21 points over Syracuse? That is just a proof of how great Rick Barnes is and this defense. I do think Tennessee wins this game by quite a bit, but 21, wow, that's a big number. At 8:30, BYU travels to Providence. This game's on FS1. BYU favored by 4. Providence stinks. Give me BYU in that one. At 9 o'clock on ESPN2, Wake Forest travels to number 22, Texas A&M. A&M favored by 12 in this one. Not a fan of either of these teams to start the year. I liked Wake Forest coming into the year. They haven't been good. Quite frankly, they haven't been good, and you know my concerns with number 22, Texas A&M. Wade Taylor, home environment, we'll see. Keeping my eye on that one. At 9 o'clock, one of my favorite games of the night, number 23, Ole Miss travels to Louisville. This game's on the ACC network. Louisville favored by 4. This is part of the SEC ACC Challenge. At 9 o'clock also, Michigan at number 11, Wisconsin. This game's on Peacock. Big Ten play. Wisconsin favored by 1. Michigan, I think, is more talented than Wisconsin. Wisconsin has looked just about as good as anyone in the country to start this season. It's going to be a fun matchup. Got to tune into Peacock, get that subscription. At 9:30, the second game of Big Tuesday on ESPN, number 4, Kentucky. Yes, number 4 in the top 5. Mark Pope doing fantastic job there. Travels to Clemson in the SEC ACC Challenge. Clemson is favored by 1 via KenPom in that one. At 10 o'clock on FS1, a Big Ten matchup featuring Washington and UCLA. Washington travels to UCLA. UCLA is favored by 12 in that one. Now, Wednesday is the day. Call off work. Cancel your plans. Put your kids to bed at 6:30. We have an important day of college hoops. At 6:30, it starts off with number 15, Baylor, traveling to number 25, UConn. Both teams off to disappointing starts this year. UConn's favored by 3. This game's on FS1. At 6:30, we have Ohio State, the Buckeyes, looking to rebound, traveling to Maryland. On the Big Ten Network, Maryland favored by 2 in that one. Give me the Buckeyes in that one. I think Ohio State goes in and gets a win at Maryland. I'm not impressed with Kevin Willard. I am impressed with Derek Queen. He's been spectacular. I think Ohio State's going to get the job done in that one, though. At 7:15, number 10, Alabama travels to number 20 in the ACC SEC Challenge. This game is on ESPN. North Carolina favored by 2 in this one. Alabama and North Carolina. Alabama's lost 2 games this year. North Carolina's lost 3. Neither one wants to suffer another one. At 7:15, continuing the ACC SEC Challenge, Virginia travels to number 13, Florida. This game's on ESPN2. Florida favored by 15 in that one. I would still take Florida to cover in that. Florida might beat them by 30. At 8 o'clock, a top 6 matchup. Number 5, Marquette travels to number 6, Iowa State. This game's on ESPN Plus. It's a top 6 matchup, and it's on ESPN Plus. Come on, be better. Put it on ESPN2 or ESPNU at least. Get that ESPN Plus subscription. Iowa State favored by 6 via KenPom in this one. That'll be a fun matchup. At 8:30, number 1 Kansas travels to Creighton. On FS1, Kansas favored by 5. Keep in mind, will Hunter Dickinson play? Will Ryan Kalkbrenner play? Keep up to date. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter. We'll be posting about it at Bracket Science. 2 S's. Got to get that in there. At 9:15 is the game of the night. Number 2, Auburn travels to Cameron Indoor. At number 9, Duke. This game's on ESPN. Duke favored by 2 in this one. Auburn has the best offense in the country in terms of KenPom, second best. Top 2, Duke has the number 1 defense in the country via KenPom. It's going to be spectacular. Cooper Flag versus Joe Nybroom. Tune into that one. At 9:15, had to throw this one in there. DePaul travels to Texas Tech. This game's on ESPNU. Texas Tech favored by 14. DePaul received votes in this AP poll voting period. That is awesome. DePaul is undefeated, one of the last undefeated teams. This will be their true test. Texas Tech, I think, will beat them. At 9:15, this game is not televised for some unknown reason. It's the ACC-SEC matchup. Number 18, Pitt travels to Mississippi State, who is favored by 1. At 9:15, Texas travels to NC State on ESPN2. Texas favored by 1 in this one. And then at 10:30, number 12, Oregon travels to USC, who scored 36 points against St. Mary's the other day, by the way. On the Big Ten Network, Oregon favored by 7, even on the road. Now, Thursday and Friday, kind of slower days. We do have some decent games. On Thursday at 6:30, Big Ten matchup, number 8, Purdue at Penn State on FS1. Purdue only favored by 1 in that one. Penn State off to a sneaky good start. At 8 o'clock, Xavier travels to TCU. TCU favored by 1. This game's on ESPN+. Then on Friday, number 19, Illinois. See, I knew they played someone. Travels to Northwestern on the Big Ten Network. Illinois favored by 4 via KenPom. That's going to do it for the entire show today. A long podcast, a lot to talk about, over 40 minutes. Hopefully you stuck along with us. Thanks for those who did. Remember to give us a follow on social media at Bracket Science with 2 S's. It would be greatly appreciated. Always talking to the college basketball community on there. If you like these graphics, we're posting those all the time. Check out our website, bracketscience.org. Leave a like and subscribe below. Really helps us out. Everyone have a great rest of the week. Enjoy Wednesday. Call off work. Do what you need to do. Watch those basketball games. We'll talk to you again Friday morning. Everyone have a safe week. Take care.